Hello, this is Ken, your podcast preacher, and I want to welcome you back to Deep Waters. This podcast is brought to you by Applied Strengths Ministry, where we believe working together in our strengths is the effect of working out the will and calling of God in our lives. The title of this message is Christian Maturity is the Goal in Reading the Bible. This is a multi-episode series in which this is episode 4 of 4. Peter's response to his net tearing wasn't because his net tore. It was because in the tearing he realized that it tore because he didn't listen to Jesus, who told him to toss out 2 nets. Peter was an experienced fisherman, so he knew the value of having 2 nets as opposed to just one, especially if you pull in a massive catch. So by throwing out 1 net, it could have been telling us that Peter didn't have the faith to believe that Jesus was actually going to fill the net. It could have been this point that Peter stated, "Depart from me, for I'm a sinful man, O Lord." But I'm inclined to believe that it was more than just one point. You see, Peter saw his rebellion in this story. And don't worry, in spite of the fact that our rebellion will usually cost us something, in this case it provided Peter an opportunity to repair his net. Jesus had witnessed the power of his word transform one of his own. I believe Jesus was excited to see Peter's response to his own rebellion. Notice that there was no criticism, no judgment, negative feedback from Jesus. As far as he was concerned, the lesson had done its work. But how do we know whether or not Peter was changed by this experience? Well, let's go to John's account of another fishing trip that he was on, along with Peter. John 21:6-11. And he said to them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast, and now they were not able to draw it in because of the multitude of fish. You see, this time Jesus told them to cast only 1 net. Verse 7. Therefore that disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." Now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he had removed it, and plunged into the sea. But the other disciples came in the little boat, for they were not far from land, but about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish. Then, as soon as they had come to land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid on it, and bread. And Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish which you have just caught." You see, Peter and the guys were dragging in 1 net. You see the obedience this time? Verse 11. Simon Peter went up and dragged the net to land, full of large fish, 153. And although there were so many, the net was not broken. It would appear that even if the net is overwhelmed with fish, if you are in the will and obedience of the Lord, His provision is enough and the net protected. So we also see that the fish count was given. When you go back to Luke 5:4-8, we see that a count wasn't given. Could it be that a count was given to demonstrate a point about obedience? And was this also evidence that Peter had matured spiritually? Peter had grown and matured in his humility. We know that Peter had more opportunities to grow, but in truth, are we not all in the same position? I see this in its most revealing form in Christianity. Bring correction as an anointed teacher of the word to a Christian who is not spiritually mature, and you may experience what Jesus so often experienced when chatting with the Pharisees, the teachers, the lawyers, and such. They wanted to be so right in all matters of God that they left no room for growth. It infuriated them so much that in time they did away with what they believed was the problem, Jesus. So besides dying for our sin, He also died because He tried to teach us a better way, and we hated Him for it. In many respects, He just wanted us to be teachable. So I've read these verses as before the apostles were mature, to after they were made ready by the ministry of Jesus. Peter was before and John was after. The basis for the training I received on this was that in Peter the nets had torn, and in John they did not. The fish represented disciples. So the teaching is wide and varied, but boils down to maturity is necessary to be effective in making disciples who will or may last or remain, as John states. But there is something else that Peter shows us, which should be the response of every believer who misses the mark, so that you can grow and move forward in humility. Jesus in verse 4 told Peter to let down his nets. We see in verse 5 that Peter, after he told Jesus that they had already gone fishing, that he would let down the net. No doubt you see it. but Peter left off an S in his presumed obedience to Jesus. This made all the difference in the world, because had he let down his nets, they wouldn't have torn. Sometimes our victory in sin is the mending of the net. But Jesus wasn't trying to catch Peter in sin, but in helping Peter to see an opportunity for growth. Don't miss the fact that God still blessed them with fish. We see that in verse 8. Peter had realized his disobedience immediately. Oh, how the speed to humility can save us years of process. In John, you see that Peter did not lose any fish. In fact, the Bible includes a very specific count of fish, 153. There is more in these two scriptures, but we'll save that for another message. These are just two examples of the fact that God is in the detail, and one letter or one word can mean obedience or an opportunity for repentance. Oh, the mystery of the revelation of the Word. Is there any reason why the devil doesn't want you to read it? Well, that's it for today, and for this series. Remember, it's not what you find wrong or disagree with regarding these messages, but what you can take away from it. Together we can do more to impact the kingdom than if we work alone. Let's flip the script and kill, steal, and destroy the works of the enemy, and create space for the light of light to shine through into people's lives. Plant a seed and click on the like and subscribe button. Let's build this ministry together. Thanks, and see you next time in Deep Waters.